Hello and welcome back to Part-Time Bodybuilder. This is your host, Holly Jeans. I have got Char Hudson joining me today. Char used to be a professional dancer for around 7 years on cruise ships, and now she works from home running her friend's cleaning business. She is also a bikini competitor and someone that I've been speaking to quite a lot recently. So welcome on the podcast, Char. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Coping with the second lockdown, although we are nearly out of it.
Yeah, some good news yesterday in terms of gyms reopening
Oh
next
my God,
week.
yeah. I was glued to that, waiting just for them to let that out. So I'm so happy.
What have
So
you been doing in terms of training? I know in the first lockdown you were training on your balcony, and then I believe I saw that you had all your weights stolen, which is rubbish.
yeah, we had over 80 kilos of weights stolen, along with my foam roller. Not sure why that was taken, and my bands. We had a 48 kilo kettlebell out there as well, but somehow they didn't manage to take that. It was a bit too much weight for them to carry. um,
That is a
so yeah,
lot of weight.
I know, 80 kilos and 2 bars, like wow. So yeah, we had to buy more stuff. I think we've managed to get about 50 odd kilos this time. We didn't go as crazy because we knew that it was going to be shorter. Well, we hoped that the lockdown was going to be shorter, which obviously has turned out to be. And we had a bench as well. They didn't steal the bench.
Too much to carry.
You can imagine now I don't leave everything on my balcony.
I'm presuming your balcony isn't that high up.
No, we about 6 foot off the ground. Like it's ground floor, so you have to climb over. To be honest, I think it's pretty impressive. Like how I don't know how they managed to do it, but anyway,
So
live
you're
and learn.
half like fair play for actually managing it.
They're all metal plates as well, so like we didn't hear anything. And 80 kilos, you can't run off with that very quickly. So yeah, never mind. We just had to suck it up and buy more, which was just. Oh, the best thing was those plates that I had originally weren't even mine. I'd borrowed them.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that takes some explaining, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the ones we have now live in the living room. They do not stay outside.
Lesson learned.
Absolutely.
So are you having to do like loads of tempos and stuff like that?
Yeah, workouts are taking like triple the time that they do in the gym because I'm having to go like so slow, just like controlling the eccentrics and just it's a different style of training, isn't it? Like completely. And I'd only just got back into the gym really, so it's a bit of it's quite good in this fact that I can ease myself back in, not kind of getting too excited and carried away with myself, because I only have a limited amount of weight, so I can't just get ahead of myself.
So you're almost being forced into like recovering properly.
Yeah, and focusing on like form and making sure everything is nice and accurate.
So talking about that, it's obviously been a mad year for everyone. I think you've had a particularly mad year, so I don't know whether you want to talk us through what's happened this year.
Yeah, so we were in the lockdown. We had lockdown, obviously, training throughout lockdown, like everyone was. And I have previously had an old injury in my neck and my back, which was one of those niggles, that kind of comes up. You kind of put up for a while, or maybe have a bit of a massage, and then you ignore it again, and everything's fine. And it was just after we'd gone back to the gym, after the first lockdown. So was that like the end of July, early August?
Yeah, end of July, I think.
Yeah, and I was having a lot of trouble with it to the point where I was not able to train. And I saw my physio, and it just wasn't getting any better. Like the pain in my neck was stopping me sleep. It was coming all down my shoulder into my elbow, to the point where we'd just be awake in the night, just like watching TV because I just couldn't sleep. And like after dancing for so many years and having injuries as part of the job, I'd like to think I'm quite tough. and for like pain to like bring you to tears and things like that. Like, so went to the physio, had some scans. Like, fast forward, I'm having emergency surgery on my neck to avoid me losing the use of my right arm, which is just mad. Like, that whole process was about 3 weeks from being in a lot of pain to kind of having surgery. It was mad.
So what was the injury and what did they have to do in terms of surgery?
Yeah, so obviously you've got your discs in between your vertebrae. So my C5, C6 disc, which is like just at the base of your neck, I think it's like the last one in your neck, had bulged. So a lot of people get bulged discs, it's quite normal, but they can just go back in on their own. This one was pressing on the nerve that goes all the way down my arm, to the point where it was painful, but I was losing function. I could hardly pick up a cup by the time I was going into surgery. So with a normal disc bulge, they would just like, maybe you could have an injection to help with the pain, or you could just see if physio and rehab would help it. But because the function was going, the function essentially is irreversible in some cases, the lack of function. So if they hadn't have operated, that loss of power, loss of use in my arm could have been permanent and could have just got worse and worse and worse. And amazingly, the doctor that I saw for that time, that visit, wouldn't let me leave until he'd secured a bed in a hospital that day.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable. And then I had the disc removed. So it's called an ACDF, which is, oh my God, let me get this right. Anterior cervical discectomy and fusion. So, and they went in the front, took out the disc, fused it with some metal, and it was literally like the use of my hand came back instantly. As soon as I woke up, I could use my hand again.
That's really, I was going to ask that, how quick it took to regain function. That's amazing that it's come back straight away.
It was like lifting something off something, do you know what I mean? It was like a button was pressed and they just removed whatever was pushing on it, and it was done. So
it must have just been where that was pushing on the nerve, and then as soon as you take the pressure off, it's
exactly
released it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind though, and pretty well, it was a bit traumatic. I was scared. Yeah, I was really scared.
Yeah, because it's quick, and two, that's not a small surgery.
No, it was I think it was the fact it was my neck. Like, I've had surgery before on, like, I've had some foot surgery and other bits and bobs, and that your neck is if like one wrong move and you're like, there was a lot of, the risks were higher, and you just think my neck is like essential for if anything goes wrong, like my life could change.
It's like if you've ever hurt your back, I've hurt my back quite a few times, and you realise just how much you use that part of your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I mean, the time, to be honest, I would have done anything for them to just fix it or help me, because the pain in my arm was just unbelievable. And I was just getting really, really down because I felt exhausted just from being in pain all the time. But the speed of it as well, the fact I went to the doctors that day thinking I was getting some more painkillers or some more help with the pain, to then coming home being like, oh my gosh, I've got to pack a bag, I'm having surgery tomorrow. Like, wow.
No time to process it.
No, but then maybe that helped. I don't know. I was with COVID as well. I was on my own in the hospital. So that was a bit like the night before waiting was just, it wasn't so fun.
No. And in terms of recovery, how long did they say that you kind of had to take with no activity, I suppose?
So they said 2 weeks, like no work or anything, and like relaxing as much as possible, because my mobility was very limited when I first came home from hospital. couldn't lay down by myself, couldn't sit up by myself. So they said 2 weeks kind of being really, really kind of cotton wool looking after it. And then they said between 6 and 8 weeks back in the gym. So we went with 6.
And how did you find those 6 weeks? Was it a real struggle, or did it go quicker than you thought?
I think initially I just couldn't even think of anything with the gym and things, because that first 2 weeks I was just in so much pain, and everything was just hard work to do. If I wanted anything, I was relying on other people quite a lot. And then I think it got to about the 3 or 4 week mark where I was feeling like I could walk to the shops, I could do things, and it was more frustrating at this point. And I think it was the middle-ish mark, about the 4 week period, that I had a bit of a wobble and really upset. And it's that middle point where you're not there yet, but you kind of so close. Yeah. But then it reminds yourself when, like, if something like I'd reach too quickly and then I'd get pain, like, okay, you're not there yet.
And when you did feel like you were there, how did you reintroduce yourself to the gym? How did you go about that?
So obviously I got signed off on my physio, who have been amazing. Like, they've been amazing the whole time. And we had a chat about movements that might not be appropriate. So I haven't really loaded a bar on my back at all since, not because I can't, but just because of where it would sit. I just feel cautious about it. And then we just, obviously with Cuba, spoke about the best plan of action, and we just kept it at low volume. So I was only doing one working set for each exercise, and was doing 1 day on, 1 day off. And to say as well, with recovery, before I actually got back in the gym, we'd already adjusted all my diet anyway to kind of get me primed, which was really helpful, and also kept me a bit sane, eating on a meal plan.
I suppose you've got something still to focus on, haven't you? You can put goals and things in place to...
Exactly. As soon as I could, I had a step count back in, and we were on meal plan. I think it was only a week after my operation that we did that. And it just made me feel that there was still some progression, because I think that when I was getting upset about not being able to go back to the gym, it was more the fact that I felt like I was stood still. And I was going backwards, or if anything, and I just needed to feel like I was going forwards. But yeah, low volume and 1 day on, 1 day off. And I wasn't kind of going for as big weights or like heavy lifts. I was just keeping it really just moderate, and making sure that I was really focusing on form and execution and just technique, just because I can't risk having another injury or re-injuring my neck.
Yeah, you've got to build yourself up slowly. I mean,
yeah, there'd be nothing worse than going in all guns blazing and then pulling a hamstring or something.
Yeah, doing something else and thinking, oh, well, I've just got back.
Yeah. So
I have a habit of doing that. When I get injured, I go back in gung-ho and then really regret it.
It's so easy to do because you're so motivated, because you've missed it so much. It's like that, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. So you're like so excited to get back in. So you can see how that can happen.
So how many weeks did you have back in the gym before lockdown 2 hit?
I didn't even have a full rotation of my plans.
Oh no, so what's that, like a week and a half?
Yeah, I think I did push, pull, legs, push.
Oh, that's just like a tease, isn't it?
It was like, so I worked out for like the whole of the year. I've been back in the gym for about 6 weeks, like from the beginning of January, then the middle, and then so I think I managed 4 sessions, and then we went into lockdown, and I'm not gonna lie, I spent the whole of the Wednesday night before the Thursday lockdown crying. I was distraught, like more than I should have been.
I had a bit of a cry, to be fair.
I think I just felt like I was just getting back to myself, and I hadn't realized how much not being in the gym and having that routine had made me not feel like me, and how much I needed that to feel like my full self. So yeah, 4 sessions back.
And so how are you feeling now? Do you feel like this period's actually done you good? Have you been able to kind of build stuff back up again slowly?
Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, because of how I can train at home and what is possible, because I don't have a full-on gym, I think it's probably been quite helpful, because like we said, concentrating on execution nice and slow, and technique and things has kind of, I'm ready now to, I think maybe when I was first back in the gym, I was just not quite ready physically, whereas now I feel like I'm literally not having any pain in any of my sessions. My flexibility is coming back, my like mobility in my neck is coming back. So yeah, I feel like it's just been a nice little, oh, not nice, I've not enjoyed it, but it's been what's probably good for me, because it meant I could get back to my proper split, because the volume, the intensity of the sessions wasn't as full on as it would be if I was back in the gym, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, blessing in disguise.
Yeah. I've stamped my feet a couple of times, especially when I've had to go out and train in the cold, but we've got there. We're nearly there on the home straight.
Yeah, and I think quite a lot of the time it's like a combination effect of everything, isn't it? Obviously, you've had quite a traumatic time, you've just got back into the gym, and then lockdown happens. I think a lot of it's things that build up and then it becomes
I
too
think
much.
when I was in tears about the gym's closing, I don't think it was probably just the gym's closing. It was all of the just, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And I remember saying, like, I could have been, like, they told me in the surgery, if it had gone wrong, there could have been some like paralysis. And I think I was like realizing that could have happened. And it was just all a big mind blown.
Bit of a release.
Yeah, it was a bit over the top at the time, but
It's allowed.
Why are you crying? The gym's shut.
To be fair, I had one of them when the gym shut, and like you say, it wasn't. I don't think it was even the fact that the gyms were shut. I think I was just stressed, and it.
I think somebody that was a bit more into psychology would have picked it apart and said, yeah, it's nothing to do with the gym shutting.
Yeah, that's your excuse, but that's not it.
Yeah, but we're nearly there. We're nearly there.
We're nearly there. And in terms of competing, so you've done one season?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Last year, 2019, was my first year of competing.
And what shows did you do?
I did one of the Two Bros regional shows, and then the British finals with Two Bros.
And how did you find it?
Oh, unbelievable. I was hooked from the second I got on the stage. As a dancer and retiring, then to go back on stage, it was like just giving me life.
You miss that performance aspect, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And I just, yeah, it was great to be able to kind of combine how much I love training in the gym and fitness to then with that side. That was the bit that I wasn't scared about or nervous about, because that felt like so comfortable to me. It was a bit different on the day. I was a lot more nervous than I thought I would be, but performing is like, I've performed since I was 3 years old, so a stage and people doesn't bother me.
And what did you think about going in and doing Two Bros as your first show? I know a lot of people are kind of a bit apprehensive about Two Bros as a federation, particularly first timers.
Yeah, I think because I've come from a professional dance background, and I've always been quite competitive, I see Two Bros as the top level for competing if you are wanting to go down the IFBB pro route. And for me, I was like, I'm going in, if I can go in at that, like, and compete with essentially the best people. That's what I want to do. I want to put myself up against as good a people as I can, because I wouldn't want to do well if I knew there was a different federation with better people. Does that make sense? Like, I wanted to be in the mix of like the best, and did make it easy for myself.
I think it's a really good way of doing it though. So when I did it, I almost did it as, where do I stand in this? I knew that exactly. I was still very much a little fish in a big pond.
100%. That's how I felt. But I knew that it was a good gauge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to, just know how much work do I need to put in.
And you can look at all the Instagram pictures in the world, but until you actually stood next to the people, you just can't get a gauge for what it's actually like.
No, it was so, people look so different in life. I was just like in awe, literally, at the show. Just, okay, this is what I need to do. I felt tiny.
And what classes did you go for?
So I did the beginner bikini, and then I did the open for the regionals. So I won my beginner class, and then I came 5th in the open. And then when I went to the finals, I just did the beginners, just because I knew that I wasn't going to be competitive in the open class at the finals. And I didn't place at the finals in the beginners, but I was just so happy to be there.
It's such a great experience. And like you say, I think not winning or not placing actually teaches you more than placing, because you can work out there where you need to improve. It's motivation.
I think if anything, like, because I'd done my first show at the regional, I'd won the beginners class, I was like, oh, okay, great. And then I got to the finals and I was like, oh, okay, all these other are also beginners and they're amazing. And it kind of made me step back and be like, okay, just, yes, you did win that one, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah. And what kind of sparked your interest? How did you get into it to begin with?
So when I was dancing my last kind of year or so on cruise ships, I'd started training in the gym a little bit because I was doing a lot of aerial work. So I obviously needed to be strong upper body. So I'd gone from like cardio bunny, the usual, to weight training. And then when I retired at 27, it's crazy, but when I retired from dancing and I was just at home like, what am I going to do now, I carried on going to the gym because that was then the constant, that could be the constant, and the focus. And I think coming from a professional dance background, I always knew that when I'd finished dancing, I wouldn't just not do anything active wise or kind of physically. So I needed a new kind of focus and goal. And I'd spoken to a few people that, you know how it is, you go to the gym and there's a few people that compete maybe, and they say, oh, do you ever do it? And you just have these chats that feel like, oh, maybe one day. And then I went to watch a show and my friend was competing. And like, I think that night I was like, right, I need a coach.
How do I do this?
Yeah, how do I make this happen? But it was just, I knew that from dancing I needed that next goal of something physical and active, and then also, like I said, the sparkle and the kind of stage bit kind of was like, well, this is the perfect combo. What's not to love?
I was very similar. So I was a gymnast for years. So I did it from like 3 to about 14, and then I spent years searching for the thing that I would love as much as I love gymnastics. So I ran a marathon, I did Tough Mudders, I tried everything possible under the sun. I was very much cardio bunny. And then I found bodybuilding. And I think what with the gymnast history, and I've modelled since I was 14, I think the two there collided like they did with you, and it was just a perfect match.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people get a bit, oh, sorry. Oh, my phone just rang. I think some people get a little bit nervous about the stage part, and that's like, but that was the bit that I was like, not that I didn't think about it, because I was obviously having posing lessons and choosing my bikini and my jewelry, but the actual being on stage was like, well, if I do what I like, learn how to pose, or learning, it's constant evolving, but I know what I should be doing. The stage bit, that I don't need to kind of worry about that, because that's just in step on a stage and I can't help but smile.
It becomes ingrained, doesn't it? Like, I think of the stage as a catwalk.
Yeah.
And I think of the poses, I did a bit of dance as well, so I think of that as steps in a dance routine. So it's certain steps that I practice and practice and practice until it's second nature, and that bit doesn't faze me.
Yeah, it's good. I feel lucky to be in that position. Although I was thinking how I would be nervous at all. My legs were, I'm surprised they kept me up, because my legs were shaking.
I think a bit of nerves is good, and I don't think you'd be human if you didn't.
Yeah, I was surprised by how much. And then when I came off the first time, I felt so emotional. I just wanted to cry. I think because I'd been wanting to do it for so long, and then it'd been like, oh, maybe I will, maybe I will. And then I was like, I've actually done what I said I wanted to do.
And did you feel more confident when you went back on to do the open class once you'd done the beginners?
Yeah, because I was just so like, my legs had been so shaky. I was like, right, I've done it now. You can go back again. And I think I'd seen a few other people, and I could see that, okay, they're giving it a bit of sass. Let's try that, but don't fall over.
A whole lot of sass. Let's hope you don't fall on your ass.
Definitely, I think the more and more you do it, I'm hoping by next year I'll feel even more like less wobbly anyway.
And what is the plan? Because I saw today that you mentioned that you'd picked a show.
Yeah. So obviously, because of the lack of gym time we've had this year, everybody, and then me particularly, I'm going to go as late as I can. So I think we're looking at like the last regional, which is like 5th of September, is it?
Yeah.
So as late in the day as possible, and then kind of do a cluster of shows around there.
There's a lot that back end of the year, because I was looking at July.
Right.
And there's not that many around that period. So I've started looking at September.
Yeah, it's a long time. Like, it'll be 2 years since I last competed.
It'll be 2.5 for me.
Wow, yeah. And I don't feel that I will have, well, I don't know where we're at, we'll see next year, but 2 years I'll be like, oh wow, you could be a completely different person in 2 years. But I think I have to think, really, it's only going to be 1 year, because of this year's been such a setback for me. Because even before my surgery, I wasn't training properly because I was not fit.
So much pain, yeah.
So yeah. Ooh.
It's exciting.
It just now feels that everything now, it's like, right, okay, this is the focus, because it's hard. I think, I don't know how you feel, being in an off, what is essentially an off season, with I'll compete, I'm going to be competing next year, without a date, because it's like, just feels like so long, like so far in the future, where really now there's a date, I'm like, oh my god, that's only this many weeks.
Yeah, I saw someone post that Amateur Olympia was 51 weeks today, and I was like, when you put it like that.
Yeah, I think in bodybuilding terms, I think if I told my friends I was doing something in 51 weeks, they'd be like, what? But if you know how long a prep is and things like that, it's not long at all.
And I think for me, like, I really want to go in July, because I just really want to compete, whereas I know that's not a reason to do it.
It's hard to think what is best for you when you know how much you just want to do the end bit, but you've got to think in like the long term, like your long-term head, because I would like, yeah, let's do a March show, I just want to get on stage, but really, I would look ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard one, isn't it? Weighing up what
you're
doing versus what's exciting.
In the sport is being patient. I think underestimate the importance of being patient within bodybuilding, because you can't do things like that. Everything takes time, whether that be dieting or building muscle, everything takes time. So we want to get on stage now, but really it's better to wait.
Yeah, we'll look immense by the time we get to September.
I don't know.
And how tall are you? Because I think you're probably in the similar height class to me.
7. Well, I'm just under, so I think I'm 168 centimeters.
I thought you were going to be the same height as me for some reason.
You're a lot taller than me, I think.
I don't know why I thought you were like 5'11".
No, I wish I was. That would be fab. That would have been great for dancing jobs.
Really? I thought it'd be the opposite. So
Yeah, I could have done like all the Paris showgirl stuff. I was in a bit of a weird height because I'm not short, but I'm not tall. I
I need
always.
to pick up a new vocation.
Oh yeah, you could go join the Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, I'm so up for this. Enough bodybuilding, I'm going to the Moulin Rouge.
Perfect. Yeah, you're the great height for that.
But so I used to be class H, which I think was quite tall. It was like 5'10" upwards, but they've changed it now, so it's 5'7" upwards.
Oh.
So I'm going to be giant lady again.
So you're going to be the tallest out of, right. Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Unless I suppose they get a lot of really tall people, they might stick us in another class. But
yeah. I think when I competed, they just, because of them it wasn't like full, they just split like the logical way to split with the heights, because if they'd have done A, B, C, D, E, it would have been like one person, 2 people. Yeah. So we just kind of split. But I thought I was quite tall, because within dancing I wasn't short, but I was on the taller side. But then really I'm not that tall in comparison. I've met so many other like bikini competitors that are a lot taller than me.
There seems to be more tall girls. So when I last competed, it was kind of the A, B, C, D were packed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the taller height classes were mainly Eastern European girls and me. And I've seen this year, particularly like Romania and the Europa Pro, loads of tall girls and crazy standard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. These shows that have just been like the last run of shows, like from, well, the only shows that have been able to go on, but especially like the abroad shows, unbelievable. I've been like glued to my laptop streaming them, like, wow.
Yeah, I said to Cuba, I was like, I need a 10-year off season, please.
Yeah, the amount of muscle these girls have got, wow, it's so impressive. And I really like how the look is going, like where it's going to. I really like it. So now I just need to get there myself.
As we said, patience.
Yes, patience. Yeah.
So I'd love to talk a bit more about your dancing because it just fascinates me.
Yeah.
So what was being a professional dancer for you? Being a
professional dancer was the best. I would have done it for free. Like, I was the majority of my professional career I was on cruise ships, which was like waking up in a different country every day, working one day on, one day off, and the day that you do work you don't start till 4 o'clock. It was very different to the lifestyle I have now in regards to the way I eat and sleep and look after myself now. There's a lot of partying, I have to admit, but it was performing like shows and massive productions. It just in the day-to-day, I think now looking back at it I can appreciate it so much more. There'd be days then I was dancing and I'm like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to, can't be bothered, like, or even like traveling, like I'd be in a place, some random place in China, I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to get off today, I'm just going to stay in bed. And it's like, you idiot. Never going to go back there again. I think now I appreciate it so much more, but I think it set me up just generally. I mean, dancing since I was 3 and then dancing professionally, I think that has helped me in bodybuilding be very driven and structured and disciplined, because things like ballet and stuff like that are so disciplined. I think that's really helped, and I do think it helps my posing as well. That still does need work, but it does help my posing definitely. But it's the best in the world.
What's the best place you visited?
I love all of like the cities, like the big cities. So like Hong Kong, Singapore, where else? Like San Francisco, Vancouver. But then you can't beat the Caribbean. Like beach, like heaven. And for that, yeah, the Caribbean is so beautiful. So beautiful. But I think the city is because there's more. Although you feel like you're on a bit of a whistle stop because you've maybe only got one day there, and you're like, how can I fit everything in? Having said that, because I've traveled so much, I've got like a little list of, okay, I want to go back there, I don't want to go back there. Like it's been like a good taster of the world. I've seen so many places. I feel so lucky when I think about it, and I just wish I'd have appreciated it when I was 21.
Yeah.
Because now I'm 30. Yeah.
And what's the worst place you've been to?
I not the worst place. It's interesting, but I felt very nervous in parts of Russia.
Yeah.
There was just a bit of an uncomfortableness about it, and don't know why, because it's so beautiful. But I think because it's quite hard place to get off as a crew member. There's a lot of checks and there's loads and loads of stipulations, and I think that kind of made me so anxious, like, will I even be able to go ashore? It then just tainted
Put a bit of a dampener on the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like certain parts are quite grey and certain parts are so beautiful. I think it's just different, whatever you prefer. I went to Belize as well, and Belize was a bit scary because we walked out of the port and there was just everywhere security guards with guns, and we're like, right, we'll get back on. Like, not today.
No, thank you.
We'll just go sunbathe back on the ship. Like, yeah. Interesting, I think, is the word. Not necessarily bad, just in different places. But I definitely was a bit of a culprit when I first started cruising when I was like 20, 21. Just the sole focus was, where can I go get Wi-Fi? And I regret that.
Yeah.
Where can I go get Wi-Fi and call my mum?
And have you got any wild travel stories? I've travelled quite a lot, and there's always a wild travel story in there. I've got quite a few.
A lot. I'm not sure all of them are very shareable. I mean, I'll tell you about when my sister came on board, because I still wrote her letter forget this, because I thought I was going to get the sack. You get free travel for relatives for like a certain amount of days, and my sister and her friend came on, and we were having the best time. Like, it was great having her on, because like she's my like similar age. There was groups of us. It was great, and we went to Rome, and then the next day the ship was going to Pisa. But I wasn't allowed off, because, boring story, but you have to have a certain amount of people on board at all times. So it was my turn to have to stay on. So I sent her off to Pisa, and I don't know why, I think I jinxed myself. I was laid in the crew pool, like on like a lilo, being like, oh, I love having my sister on board, but it's really nice to have a day off from her, because you have to feel like you're looking after someone. And then I went back to my bag, looked at my phone, and she's like, I think we're going to be late back. And I was like, no, if the ship is leaving, the ship is leaving.
Going, yeah.
It's going. If there's a group of passengers, of 100 passengers on a trip, they might wait. They're not going to wait for two girls that are already on for free. And I was back and forth, and she's like, we're at a train station and we can't get on the right train, and they're cancelled. We need to get a taxi. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get the sack, because they're my responsibility. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? My cruise director, who's like my boss, was ringing me like, the ship is leaving in 20 minutes and your sister and her friend are not back on board. Yes, I know. And it's always back and forth, and then like the engine started. I was like, oh my god, the ship has like a rumble about it.
Yeah.
When the engine starts, oh my god, I was nearly in tears. I'm gonna get in so much trouble. Oh my god. And then I see I'm looking over, like, can we see them? You see these two girls sprinting up the gangway. Their passes like held out in front of them, like, we're coming. And my friend was filming it, and they got on like minutes to spare, like minute or two. My heart was in my mouth, and she was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I can't even talk to you. Like, I was so angry. It was just the image of them like running. It felt like they were running miles, and then they got on. But that's the story I can share.
I know about the stories that you can't share. We'll do that after we've stopped recording.
Yeah.
It was funny because I did a boat trip around Croatia, and I've got some really quite wild stories about that one. But we had the same, that we had to be on at a certain time and the boat would be leaving. But it was an 1830s holiday, so everyone just went out and got absolutely wasted and was partying all night. And they said to us like 5 a.m. and the boat is leaving. And every time we'd normally be docked like 3 or 4 in or 3 or 4 out. And so we'd be like running and like jumping over these boats, like to try and get to us.
Yeah.
Slightly drunk still.
Yeah. I think working on cruise ships for so many years, and it was instilled in me that you have to be back. And for them, the one day I left them alone, I aged about 10 years in that half an hour that I was waiting for them. Oh, it was horrendous.
It's now been documented and she can listen to it.
Yeah, talk about it. That video gets shared all the time. And do you remember this? And the anger is like, it's still in me. It was great. Mm-hmm.
I love it. All right, well, I think I probably kept you for long enough, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I've absolutely loved talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And if people want to follow you, follow the rest of your journey, where can they find you?
My Instagram is Char_Hudson_, and I'm posting all there.
Lovely, and I will tag it in the show notes so people can find it easily.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks so much.